View City Council, Monday, September 19th, 2011.
All right. Call meeting to order. Roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westergaard.
Yep.
Schrader.
Yep.
Vogel North.
Yes.
Laney.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Okay, Jerry has called, said that he's coming, he's just going to be late. His one request, Mayor, if we can postpone the skid loader discussion until he get here.
We can do that. Being there no public forum, will consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Your second.
I'll do that.
Roll call.
Just know that this does amend those minutes to show Ben's vote, Ben's abstaining from voting on that alley issue. Had that wrong in the minutes.
This is for that, this also includes that Bob Frank deck.
Yep.
We're
And-
not gonna make him go through the Board of Adjustment.
I went down there and looked at it. That's more like a steps than a deck. You
Yeah.
went and looked at it?
No, but
I talked to the neighbors, everybody's on board with it, they're fine, so.
so that you know,
I really think if I had built that, I would have asked for a couple either because it's that wide. It's
Kind of like steps. Little landing
But
inside.
it is different size. It doesn't curve. I can understand why people can't do it.
I was just the idea that the neighbors didn't have a problem with it.
yeah.
Ready for roll call?
Okay, thank you. Laney.
Yes.
Vogel North.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Okay, final pay for Blackhawk Trail. He asked me about that the other day.
Howery?
Yeah, he was at the fair, asked me when we were going to pay him.
We got the notice here,
So I told him the check was in the mail.
and it really should be. We ought to pay them now. Everything's been done. We've been through the final audit on the DOT. It's the last $3,800 that we would owe them, and it's still covered underneath the grant funds. So I just recommend approval of that.
We have that motion.
I'll make it.
Second. Roll call.
Schrader.
Yes.
Vogel North. Laney.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Resolution 1116. Is our standard approval.
Yep. Standard approval for Clayton Garl's new house.
We have a motion on 1116.
Where is that at?
It's Blackhawk Development number 2. It's right across the street from here.
Broke ground on it?
Yep.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Laney.
Yes.
Vogel North.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll go down to ordinance 434. This could take a while.
.434 updates our municipal infractions to be consistent with the state code, and that just sets the maximum penalties for municipal infractions at $1,000 for the first, nope, $750 for the first offense, $1,000 for each additional.
Any questions? Not, we need a motion on ordinance 434.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Roll call.
Thank you. Vogel North. Schrader.
Yes.
Laney.
Yes.
On all of these ordinances, you'd have the choice to pass them all tonight if you wanted to, but there's really no reason to. So if you just want to do first readings on them, that's fine too.
Oh my goodness. We'd have to have a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Yeah, but let's not do that. Let's just have the first readings tonight.
Okay, 435.
I'll make it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
I do want to point something out on this. When we discussed this last time, this was a disorderly conduct thing that applied to the funerals and memorial services. This is just basically SAC's code on disorderly conduct, which includes As I looked for how we should structure that, it just seemed it's structured very well. Just use their same ordinance, but it's just basic things about fighting and noise and abusive language. But the other thing that's somewhat interesting is the disrespect of the flag. Okay.
No, roll call.
Schrader.
Yes.
Stankin. Laney.
Yes.
Ballmore.
Yes.
Okay, 436. Any changes on that? Alcohol.
No, nothing on that. This actually clears up an inconsistency with state code. A portion of that state code has been repealed, so this clears up that difference. So we no longer distinguish between anybody under 18 versus whereas we did before. Kind of a strange ordinance that we had before. Now it's just a minor as anybody under 21.
Second?
I'll do that.
Roll call.
Vogel North.
Yes.
Laney.
Yes.
Stankin. Schrader.
Yes.
437. I had a question on that. Do we do anything about advertising who they are before Halloween?
About sex offenders.
Would you ask?
Or can we advertise that the trick-or-treaters don't go to this home because there's a sex offender there?
The sex registry.
I know Dubuque used to do that in the paper.
They did?
Yeah, I don't know if the new law, because now you can't offend a sex offender, you can't, disrespect them, I'm sure. But they used to do that way,
Yeah.
because in Dubuque too, I mean, they all kind of conglomerate to a certain part, some neighborhoods had 2 or 3, and then, people just not let the kids.
Well, at least they don't mind.
Yeah.
They got their name in the paper, they're
I mean,
famous.
could we just put something in the paper that reminds people where to go to find the information online or something as a reminder? Or something?
I'd be able to get it split in the paper.
You could print, can't you, what they have online?
It's public knowledge,
Public.
isn't
So
it?
you could put that in the paper and that would not be.
You could do that.
And it'd be a service for the parents not to take them somewhere. Most people would like to know where not to go, I would think.
I think maybe what's more important is the address, not just the name.
Yeah,
so
that's
it
what
doesn't
they-
mean, the name would mean nothing to me, but the
Right.
Address,
would.
right.
It's the
Yeah.
address that you really want to.
And that's what they did, and it was
Next
really
door
well
to
liked.
Kid Stuck.
Next thing you'd say is getting
Yeah.
stagnant. They forget that next door stuff.
Yeah.
Well, more Halloween candy for you then.
No, we don't get any. Do you get any?
No.
We get 0.
We don't get it.
Thankfully.
I had like
0.
70 kids last year.
0. We always have a
Hey,
whole.
really?
Yeah, they must bring them in from the county or something.
Well, they do.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
they
There's a
hope-
lot of people I didn't even know. I mean, probably 3/4 of them.
We don't get in.
Hopefully, everybody stays in their own hometown this year, because
It's all the same day.
It
It
should-
is.
it
It's
should
all the same day
probably
it works
be-
that way, but if they get 3 different days,
They're going to hit them.
People
Oh, yeah?
travel.
Yeah.
Where people are
Oh,
going
yeah,
town
they'll
to
go
town.
town to town,
Oh,
but-
Yeah.
Halloween is Monday the 31st. So
So that should be.
you'd
What
think
is
most
much
towns.
more common in Carroll than here is TP
Mm.
trees. Way more
I never
common
did it once.
in Carroll.
Didn't? Boy, you really missed out.
My wife still does it.
Oh, boy. Soap and windows. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe. Yeah, well.
We just
Those
don't
are the
open
days.
the hydrants.
I move we approve ordinance number 437.
A second?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Laney.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Steinkamp.
Yes.
Vogel North.
Yes.
438.
I got 5.
You on that?
Yeah, I got
Thought
5.
she was giving a turn.
So anyway, we want to do something on printing the name and addresses prior to Halloween.
Should we find out for sure that we can?
I can double check, but I think, I don't know that you need the name, but I think the address, as it's, published.
If it's on the
Which
website, we
would
surely
be,
can do it.
Somewhat interesting, because there's some of these folks don't need to check in and declare residency, declare their residency.
Why? Because it's been too long.
Very,
or-
various, it's a very
Different
varied
degrees.
scale of offenses now. And if you happen to be lower on the scale, you
You
don't have to.
report your.
Somewhere
Well,
along China.
maybe
Or
I'm
life for life.
speaking wrong, but they're not restricted on where they live. Maybe they still got to report where they're not restricted.
I just think it'd be nice to inform. I'm sure a lot of people don't.
Should.
If they want to know more, just come to the website.
438, confinement of animals, there's a big change there.
14%.
Yep, that's basically it. It's only for animals who may potentially have rabies. Just confinement periods from 14 to 10 days.
We have a motion on 438,
I'll make that.
second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Thank you. Schrader?
Yes.
Oglenoor? Laney?
Yes.
439,
General traffic regulations. You see the ones that were new. In the memo on page 3. All that this does is says, here's the state code section. We will codify that as a local ordinance also. So if somebody's caught operating with an expired license, you can write a local ticket on that instead of writing it under state code. Okay?
So the city can collect the money.
Yeah. City can collect fines on that. So you can just see those few items that were added. And one of them was repealed, a section pertaining to cowl lights. I don't even know what those are, but misdemeanor violating registration. Then you get into some of these issues on licenses, and some of them have changed since the last time we codified. So they now have these different graduated licenses where they didn't before, so we need to make reference to that. Use of a driver's license or ID to buy alcohol or tobacco. Violating, the state code has some sections in it about funeral processions. So now if somebody were to cause problems during a funeral procession, we could write that locally. And some establishing penalties for violation of railroad regulations, which certainly wouldn't, it can't happen in town. We have no railroads, but we cite a bunch of railroad regulations.
Ticket if they come in from the town.
That's very good.
Absolutely.
How do you determine fines for this? Is it by code or?
Those, like that one, establishes what the fines are specifically for scheduling fines.
Okay, we have a motion on 439,
Mr. Mentor.
second,
Yes.
I'll second.
roll call.
Laney?
Yes.
Oglenoor?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ordinance 440. Container. I thought that was illegal already.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was law changes in this, but our code previously had said that the driver cannot knowingly possess an open container in the car. Okay? And this regulation in state code now says drivers and passengers, and no longer refers to anything as knowingly having it in there. So if you have an open container in there, whether you know about it or not, you're technically in violation.
So how about like a bus? Driving people around.
How did they get away with that?
You got a line in. It's in front of that line. It's illegal.
Is that how it
When I
works?
drove a bus, that's where it was. If you came in front of that line, it's illegal. As long as it's behind that line, then it's no longer in the driver's compartment.
I mean, I don't want to shut those buses down. I mean, they come through our town. I mean,
True.
but they're a business, and I hate to have them say, well, we can't go to Lakeview anymore.
No. This is nothing that's inconsistent with the state code.
What this really means, if you have any empty cans,
Yeah.
throw 'em. Because if there's a
We got
little
one for
bit of
that, too.
alcohol, they have machines now that can test
If there's anything in it.
if there's a little bit in there. And that's possession.
As long as it's in.
So if you
It's
throw your
accessible
can
area.
back.
There goes your redemption center.
Yeah. We'll be on the highway, somebody else will be picking them up.
Yeah, that's what'll happen.
Oh, I know.
We have a motion on 440, Second?
I'll do it.
Roll call.
Thank you. Laney?
Yes.
Oglenoid?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yeah.
You should tell the police that all they have to do is stand for my kitchen window. You didn't see anybody. Right around the light.
I could just go to the redemption center and catch everybody bringing them in.
That's right.
Coming to 441. Snowmobiles. That'll be good.
It doesn't change a lot of regulation here, but it changes the structure of the code. That it now has separate code sections that pertain to snowmobiles and separate ones that pertain to ATVs. And that's done largely because there's now a separate code section in the state code that pertains to ATVs. Okay. So, but it's still, the regulation of snowmobiles and stuff is basically the same. You know, you can only operate it on streets when they haven't been plowed, nothing in the parks, that type of stuff. You know, but those, then we're on page 26. The exceptions are still the same about operating during emergencies and how you cross roads. Yeah. But you get into page 27 about the operation of the ATVs. And again, it's just a little bit different where you're talking about the streets. That's that code section that pertains to ATVs, 321-234A. And it's not any different necessarily than with snowmobile. You can operate your ATVs only on the streets if they're hadn't been plowed yet. But the other thing that does is specifically allow ATV use for agricultural use and for hunting and fishing. So that, again, is specifically allowed. So if somebody takes their ATV down to the game reserve and goes hunting with it, you know, they could certainly try to make an argument that it's okay.
So if you could drive around with your ATV, make sure you got a gun in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
That way you won't get
Just
a
what I
ticket.
was thinking.
Artificial.
We still have our section in here about not driving snowmobiles over the open water, so that's gets recodified in there too.
I'll make a motion.
Second? Roll call.
Schrader?
Yes.
Oglenoid? Laney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ordinance 442.
Water connections, this more definitively defines the fact that if you have a structure that is occupied, whether it be a residence or a business, if it's occupied, it can only obtain water through the public water system. Okay, there's an exception in here, and it's if you happen to be more than 200 feet away from a main. There's nothing developed in town that would ever meet that exception. But if somebody developed Rich Schultz's property out there, it's some ag land, but still in town, they would technically they could put a well in. There he is.
Just told me when I was there, so we had to go fast.
Well, good. The other thing this clarifies, we're on the water well one, it's on 29. The other thing that this does that specifically helps out an instance in town here deals with the fact that you can't put water wells in an area that's defined as contaminated. And the one thing that comes to mind is Krause's building up there where it had some tanks and they got the tanks removed, but they still got to do monitoring. If you can't, there's no chance you can put a water well up there, they don't have to continue to monitor. So this will help out the property owner there as far as potentially getting them off the hook for monitoring. The other thing that's in the ordinance deals with the metering. Actually, it refers to that plumbing's got to be installed according to the state plumbing code now, not had previously said the state building code plumbing commission, and that has since changed. There's a separate state plumbing code. And then also a provision about tampering with the meters. So we'd never had anything in code before about tampering with meters. So this put that in there. That does make it a violation to tamper.
I move we approve ordinance 443.
Is that?
2.
I want them both.
Okay, lump sum.
How about a second on 442?
I'll make it.
Roll call.
Laney?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yeah.
Stankham? Vogel North?
Yes.
Haas?
Now we're 443.
Four, 4-3. A part pertaining to lien exemptions. And as I looked into this ordinance a little bit more, it's met with Aaron about this. There's a little bit more to this one than what I originally thought, because it's one of the very few times that in state code that says something may happen. And it does. In this case, it deals with whether you require a deposit to exempt the landlord from being responsible for water, sewer, and garbage charges. Okay, so that the city can require a 90-day equivalence. That the deposit would be 90 days what those charges have been. The city could require that to be placed on file, and the landlord's off the hook for being responsible for the bills. But it says that that the city may require a deposit. It doesn't say that we shall. It's pretty odd. But right now, our ordinance says that they need to make an application to us and give us the deposit. So as we got into this one a little bit more, I'm a little unsure about what exactly we hope to accomplish by that, because it makes it a little bit muddier as far as whether a deposit is actually required or not, if the city may require it.
What just is key?
We could just make it our policy that we do. Is that okay?
Do that. Do we really want to do that? Then that would be the next question.
What do you do now?
We take this, we basically cover ourselves through this $250 deposit when people sign up for utilities. Doesn't cover every instance, but it covers most of them.
And that's per tenant, not per month.
Right, that's per utility customer. Everybody's got that.
So what's this say? How does this change it?
That if you want to take a 90-day deposit on the water, sewer, and garbage part, you can, and the landlord's off the hook forever having to pay them. Under state code, the landlord's responsible for water, sewer, and garbage services.
How much difference is that? What is your fee? I mean, what's an average utility bill when it comes? You guys kind of numbers on that? 250.
You know,
I think 90 days would be about that somewhere, wouldn't it?
For,
For 250.
yeah, that's. I think when we instituted that, we were thinking it's about 2 months worth of an entire bill. So, and like I say, it's worked out well. And
But would we let them get to 90 days and after?
not that it's never happened, and because you will
But
try to
after 2
work
months,
with
we
people
should
when
be
they can't.
pounding on their door.
Yeah.
As if we're in a generous mood.
Not really, because we would basically allow anybody to make a payment arrangement with us. We would allow that. They just got to follow through and do what they say they're going to do. And when they don't, then we get a little bit more.
How many days
Irritable.
go by then?
You know, if it can be that they ask for a couple more weeks to pay, we usually accommodate.
Do they pay interest?
Nope. That would be a good idea.
Well, I shouldn't say it, because you do pay interest,
If you tell them, right?
but it's only on, yeah, you pay interest on water one time, $5 first time that the bill is late. I mean, so it can be $5 every month, and electric is 1.5% every month.
And you can do that so long as they know that when they sign up.
I'd be fine with the $250, not follow through with getting any more, but, you know, in 2 months, start hitting them hard and not let it go for 3, 4, 5 months.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen.
Well, not that often. And like I say, so long as people make arrangements with us and then follow through with the arrangements, it's never a problem. But it's for those people who call up and say, coming in a couple of weeks, I will bring you this amount in a couple of weeks, and then they never do. That's when the problems start.
You know, maybe now's not the right time, but there's a collection agency hired, right, to collect for the city?
We haven't used collection agency for a long time. 10 years.
Oh,
Now we can go back to their tax
because I
refund.
haven't sued anybody.
We've been
It's,
lots
you know,
better the last few years.
It's been much, much better than what it had been before.
Well, I think you're sending a little more local with our reminders. I think that makes a difference.
Kay's really good about that too. She stays on top of that.
She has them wrote down on the calendar when they're supposed to be and
And,
how much.
If you owe us money and you leave, she'll do what you can to get your state income tax refund back before you get first dibs on it if you file properly. So
Well, it seems like it's been working so far. This allows us to keep it that way, but if we need to, we can always work some differently. I don't know what everybody else thinks, kind of take it away from that. Just when they get behind, get after them.
It's not broken, it's not this one.
We're a lot better than we were years ago.
Now, this one says, in the fire deposit, not exceeding 90 days of water service.
yeah, it's
I think that's going to be a lot less than $250. We're just using it for everything.
okay. If we did this, it'd be in addition that 90 days water comes from the landlord. Okay, the $250 comes from the tenant. So we haven't used it.
But that's
We've had it
only
on.
if he wants to get, so you can't put a lien on it.
Yeah, yeah,
As long as he doesn't ask for that, you don't have to get that money.
right. And that's the way it is in our code right now too. So
Okay.
I'll make
to approve.
443. Second.
I'll do that.
Roll
Well, that
call.
was your motion originally, I'm sorry.
No, I already got it circled though. We got to hurry up and get it done, or I'll be making another post out.
We're getting close.
So we're gonna change it or don't want to?
We're gonna change it, but it allows us to keep doing the way we've been doing. But if we need to, we can.
It says it may.
Yeah, but on that though, if you want to continue to take deposit, we ought to change may to shall, and we shall require deposit.
So, what do we got on now is okay.
Is a shall.
We're just changing
So
the
why
wording.
would he even pass this then?
The other provision deals with some notice provisions about when the property is sold. It institutes a requirement that the landlord let us know when the property is sold.
And they don't
Really
do
had
it.
very minimal. It really had really minimal impact. You know, and we would, if we weren't updating our code to try to be consistent with the state, we wouldn't be doing this.
So you want to change may to shall?
I don't think you need to do that.
Okay.
Aaron, what do you think? That's the lawyer talk there.
Well, I'm not sure when we would use this. I mean, it hasn't yet. I mean,
My only question
have
then
to do it yet.
to Aaron is that if we said we want to implement this and it says the city may do this, but it has to apply to everybody, or
well, sure. If
Well,
that's
not
your
in May,
policy.
do this, it would.
It
Shall.
says may.
Policy.
Shall means we will, may says we might.
Yeah.
Is there any reason you'd want to go to have it applied to one person, not
Can't do that.
Well, we're putting it on as just new accounts, right? Because there's people like me, for instance, that I don't have a deposit sitting up here. And I'm sure Jerry probably doesn't, anybody who's been here.
another. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
you
don't
should
want
get it
it
back
back.
after a year.
So-
Get back after a year.
They get back anywhere. At least it opens up someday we could if we had to. Change
Not true.
Yeah. We wouldn't have to go through the ordinance stuff then.
I'm not sure, Scott, but I know when this would come in effect, but
We're just making a
I can tell you
step.
that it wouldn't either, you know. We do this to be consistent with the state code. That's really the reason.
Roll call?
So anyway, this would be a motion then to approve the first reading. Okay, Schrader?
Yes.
Laney?
Yes.
Thank you. Full note.
Yes.
God, Jerry, you can't. I've been doing too many of these right out, skipping over Jerry's.
We're getting close. 444. Recreational fires.
Yeah, I love discussion on this one. What's that?
Oh, I'm just thinking about something else. Funny joke.
This would allow the use of fire and specifically allow it as that way for outdoor cooking. Okay, but then number 10, recreational fires. That we would allow recreational fires, untreated wood contained within a fire ring or a fire pit, no greater than X number of feet in diameter. This is 3 feet.
I'm clear.
Are you good?
Yeah. It's an old wash machine right here.
Mhm.
20 inches.
Most of them are just like what we got down to the campground, what's the closest, 3 feet?
Yeah.
Otherwise, 20 feet.
Okay. As I looked through some other ordinances from other cities, some of them have some like distance requirements. You got to be 15 feet from structure, or you need to have it attended at all times, or you need to have a hose there to put the thing on. You know,
I don't know how you're gonna do this.
It's all right.
When it works.
well, somewhat on complaints,
I
but yeah.
wouldn't mind having the attendant right there. I don't know about the distance, because some people, we put a distance in there, some people are gonna get excluded.
Do we have it where you can't have it on a wooden deck?
Probably should have that.
Were you there that night when they were across Vine Street, down the street west of me? They had one of the big mesh fire pits right on their deck,
Go.
and they all went to bed. I said to Lisa, I should go over and probably put a couple buckets of water on that. But next day, the house was there. Yeah.
That's strange.
But common sense rule, whatever.
Yeah, you'd like to think that common sense would apply. That you want it to be attended?
I think that'd be a good idea. I don't know. So they don't do like he said, go to bed.
Yeah. I don't know about the distance thing. I
I just wanted to
mean,
bring
your
that up.
camper's closer to 15 foot to a
Yeah.
fire ring.
Yep. Okay. Well, this would then include that it be attended.
Okay. Motion on 444.
I will move that we approve ordinance 444.
Second.
Kind of how to live here.
Sweat, I'll make it.
Roll call.
Daney.
Yes.
Trader.
Yes.
Camp. Us. Over.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back.
Well, very good. We'll do that again next month.
We'll go back to
Our
the,
names beside the motions next month, so we know whose turn it is.
we started it.
You think so? I've seen that done before.
They go a lot faster. It's my turn to go first.
Jerry will have to, because he missed a few. He'll have to help.
Yeah, make up, huh?
Okay, let's go back to the skid loader, snow blower deal.
Okay. All right, what do you got new on the skid loader, Jack? Anything?
Nothing. I stopped at the fair last week and talked to the guys. City of Sheldon, they load the truck with it. There's a couple more cities that had chutes ordered for their snow blowers. There's about 5, 6 towns up there on the lakes and have. But 2 or 3 of them, I'd say half of them were just used for some small stuff.
How long have they been using them to blow snow? Is it recently, or they had some years or not?
The salesman really didn't go in depth. The Bobcat salesman did. But I can find out.
I'm just wondering about engine life with when they blow in snow, what that does to.
The skid loader?
Yeah.
Just like running the mower that we have. Just running on hydraulics. Some last, slow motors.
Are those brushes or steel auger?
Steel auger.
Will that chew up any of our curbs if it hits them, or?
It's pretty solid. I mean, I don't think it's gonna, it actually can't go outside the frame and with the auger at all. So,
I'm just thinking about the little button things on the handicap things that come down.
Yeah.
Because those things, it seems like you sneeze on them, they pop out.
It popped right off. That was the ones downtown. Yeah, they're not very good.
But other than that, curbs get scratched. That's why you have them. I'm sure.
So we just got a couple towns that use it that we know of?
right.
I would be for it mainly because I see a backhoe going back and forth a million times. You know, and that's probably going to have more wear and tear on that backhoe going back and forth, 20 feet each way. Than probably just having a skid loader going straight blowing into the truck. But it is extra cost.
Does blower quick attach?
Yep.
Well, I'm opposed to it. The reason I'm opposed to it is I think if we were going to buy a skid loader, it should have been not the budget. So I say no. And the other thing is I'm not convinced that that's going to help us with Main Street. We've bought 15 million attachments to help us with Main Street. None of them seem to be the answer. I think the answer is nice and slow and get it done.
You buy a grade that can't route, just go down.
Yeah, they, yes.
But I mean, even that round clubhouse, I thought it was all grade, just go and stand and get it right up here.
My question is how we were going to pay for it.
We would have funds, and it's out of Jack's capital fund. There's money in there, but it's a lot of that money that came from FEMA. You know, we put all of the we put all of the FEMA reimbursement into their equipment.
Is backhoe coming up this year for a new one too?
That's the one thing that is in the budget is to consider backhoe.
This budget year.
Probably looking though next spring. You were saying, Jack, that
Right. Warranty isn't done until next July. You can get her 5 years.
The tires totally wore out.
So in the winter, yeah.
Were they 12 or 16 or?
Goodyear's were a little over 400, right at 400. The Bobcat was 421, plus Mountain. So, yeah. They're always turning on the street, eh?
What's a new Bobcat run?
$10.7. Trading in is $10.7. Mainly because it's a different new series and high flow hydraulics.
I think we ought to do some more checking before we spend any more. I'd like to see some other towns that are using it. Maybe get them to write something to us and say, hey, we like it or we don't like it. Or this will give us a chance to think about it when we make it in the budget or something. I think that would be prudent.
Well, what are we doing about four or 6 blocks of wind blowing anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, so it's not a
I mean, it's not,
big demand
it's
thing.
like I say, it's not like Sioux City where you got miles of it. I mean,
Storm Lake does it, but we're going to do a couple of blocks. If we can't use it only on we can't use it anywhere else, can we?
Yeah, we use it out around.
Like
anywhere
Speaker
we
Park and
fire
blow it
area,
out?
Out by Aaron's place.
I worry about picking up a rock or something. That's my big. Not that I couldn't-
Yeah, we have used blowers before out around the lake, and when it gets really deep out there, a blower comes in really handy.
That'd be something to check on with like Spencer, see how big of a rock that ski logger, because I know the DOT up there, like Lyon County, they use that more than plow trucks, and they love them. Knock out a 15-foot drift real easy, where a plow won't even touch it.
Sure.
Diligence would let us check it out some more.
You get us more information than Jack.
I'll see what I can find.
Okay.
Where'd you price tires at?
Goodyear state price for Titans, about $1 tire. Get it through there and then Daddy puts them on. And then Bobcat, original 115.
How about those tracks you can buy to put over wore-out tires?
Well, I priced them, I got them a year ago. It was like $4,000 a set.
That
Seems a
sounds
lot.
nice.
The tires sound a lot cheaper.
But with the new series, I didn't know if the wheelbase was going to be the same, so everyone's about putting tracks. A lot of the times it's nice to have tracks on the road, like down there by the mid-state. Do a lot more mowing and ditch mowing, things like that.
Roundup. That'll cure it. Okay, check her out some more, Jack.
All right.
Okay, ordinance, property maintenance code, maximum occupancy.
Well, take a look at page 33. As I was looking at other property maintenance codes, the shortcoming on a lot of these that I looked at always seemed to be enforcement and how you go about enforcing it. Because say you're in violation and then basically you fall under just the enforcement of general code enforcement. This one is much more precise about how you go about enforcing that. Includes those definitions, and then I struck out some of the things that really didn't seem to pertain. Iowa Falls has established a board of appeals, and that just didn't seem to be necessary. If there's an appeal out of this, it can come to the city council. And the rest of those definitions yet on 34. You get into the standards, and then the maintenance is on 35. So there's some interesting discussion here. And the first one is right in the middle of the page. Item number 1, where they're talking about weeds or grasses. And this is something, I think maybe we ought to take a look at. Is establishing criteria on that. And this says 6 inches. Anything over 6 inches is determined to be in violation. Right now we just have something that says, you basically got to keep your wheat grasses pulled down. It doesn't set a definition about what that means. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that. As far as do we want to have a defined criteria, or we're okay with the way things have been working?
I could just see us measuring.
Yeah, just get down there and lift up the piece of grass and
It cleans up the gray area.
Yeah, it does. At 6 inches, at least we know where we're at.
Well, I'm not saying 6 inches is right. We'd like to stay a little cleaner than Iowa Falls. I would guess maybe we're going to be 4 or 5 inches.
Do we have a problem with it? We're not generally notice.
Not necessarily. And when we do have have a problem, we send out a notice, and people generally get it taken care of. And in some ways, having this guideline would really hold our feet to the fire maybe when we don't want to, especially around springtime. Kind of had this unwritten rule, at least about those folks who hadn't mowed before Memorial Day. We'll at least give them up through Memorial Day to get mowed before we give them a notice.
Largely
For seasonal folks,
Yeah, but don't we have some sort of tolerance as for the city that we could, whether we want to enforce it before Memorial Day? I mean, somebody says, if we know they're coming, what's the big deal? Really, I mean,
Because this would be used for places that they moved out of, nobody's there, and nobody's taking care of it.
that's
At least we know where we're at.
Would that open a situation though, where if we did go after someone, they'd say, well, you're just picking on me because you didn't enforce this on other people, or?
Potentially.
We get that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really, think about how much, unless it sits over the winter though, the real problems don't start at Memorial Day, do they really? I mean, they're not.
Well, really, there's only 3 or 4 people that I don't think we're the only ones that pick on them. 3 or 4 families, I guess.
By and large. At least the homeowner sitting next to him would know how high it's going to go before they could complain.
Yeah.
Right, so how high would it go? And I've never measured a blade of grass to know what 4 inches looks like, but that seems pretty tall, but not out of hand if it's only 4 inches, 6 inches.
6 inches is about the length of a dollar bill.
That's a lot of grass.
So if I don't mow the grass next to my brick wall,
Inch or weeder, we'll cut it out.
John's coming with a roundup.
Yep. Yeah.
do that about 3 times or something.
Well, I think everybody knows where we're going.
You always find exceptions there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, at least we got, 6 inches seems to be a long way.
But I would say if we're gonna do this, then we better be pretty good on our own property.
I thought we did
We
awful
did.
darn fair job
Yeah.
this year. I thought our properties were pretty good.
I'd be fine with a 6 inch rule. I mean, we really don't start complaining until it's over that anyway.
Does this have anything to do with trees in the roof?
I was gonna ask about mulberry trees. How high do we let them get along a foundation?
This does have stuff about that, building maintenance is in the middle of the next page on 36. So this is, I want to kind of really go through this and engage your feelings about what our property maintenance code ought to be. Should it just apply to exteriors of buildings only? Or would this apply to some interior stuff also? Because this is saying that the top first part of 16408 deals with the outside. That you can't have excessively peeled paint, and we need to define whatever that would be. This said 50%, and that to me seems like an awful lot. Or any of the holes, any broken glass, shingles, that type of stuff, and that's all pertains to the exterior. Then it goes on, and I've had this in italics, about basements and cellars and crawl spaces, and all of these other issues about the structural stability of the building. Do you want your property maintenance code to apply to the interior buildings also?
How would you go in and enforce something? Just come out and knock on the doors and when you look at your.
That's, I think it'd be difficult.
Yeah.
The exterior is so much more easy. You just
I'd say let's
look
go
at
with
the outside.
exteriors first.
Yeah, I think that
That's
way.
90% of it.
Is that the blue brick?
But you know, if we have a building that the exterior is bad on and we go inside, it just gives us a little more leverage than to say, and the floor is falling in, you need to do something. I don't think we should.
Is there a penalty if they don't do this?
Yeah, it comes in the back of the ordinance.
Is that like bricks on the back of a building on Main Street?
Sure could be.
We ain't getting very far on that one.
Loose or cracked or singles or shaded or bricks, and that certainly would apply. At the bottom of that paragraph, I saw this on somebody else, but I thought that it was appropriate, and I think we need to kind of specify this, that the polystyrene board and Tyvek and insulation board, that they're not considered permanent finishes. And you see that from time to time where they'll stay on for a year while something's...
What is polystyrene board? I don't even know what it is.
Is that styrofoam insulation board.
Oh, I thought that was
The silver stuff?
bar board, insulation board. Is that the same thing?
I think maybe about the same thing.
Well, we know we had at least one building had it for windows for many, many years. My building, when I bought it, that's what was
Oh, yeah.
for windows.
Sure.
What about a house that's caught on fire and it's been standing there for years, not fixed?
I have an answer for you.
Yes.
It's coming down shortly. Lon was talking about that too, that he's got that contractor on the line to come turn it on.
That came up a couple times.
Yeah, and Lon brings it up to me, he brings it up to me from time to time, just to let me know that he's thinking about it and gonna get it done.
I didn't know that was his house. I didn't know who he was.
Really?
No, I didn't know that.
That's Lon, one of his rentals. Okay. And 16409 is kind of interesting also. Dealing with inoperable vehicles. First sentence is consistent with what we have. Inoperable vehicles shall be stored within a fully enclosed building or other location not exposed to public view. Yeah, or shall be removed from the premises. This next one I put in italics is part of this Iowa Falls Code. I wanted your opinion on that. A fully enclosed wood slat or slatted chain link fence is wall sufficient to prevent unauthorized access and more than 6 feet tall. And that would constitute not exposed to public view.
Now we're just making junkyards legal in everything.
I mean, this specifically says Terry and Tammy Smith are
Would be
okay.
fine, yeah.
Yeah, but haven't we said they're okay? As long as they were under the number and they were, you could see them?
Yeah, but we really don't even know that, as far
We
as
don't really know how many.
what
are
they
there.
have for numbers. And
That's because we allowed the fence.
yeah, I guess I'm just interested in what your thoughts are on that. I'm not sure that we need to go down there to authorize something like that,
We don't want to go backwards.
I'm just kind of worried we're going to end up with a bunch of fences around
Yeah.
a bunch of old
6
cars.
foot fences.
Stress that.
Okay.
I'll max that out, so okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. And on page 37, you can then see what the violations are, and how you go about working through the process of citing someone for a violation, and then the abatement of that. And then there's a whole separate deal about the enforcement of weeds. That happens much quicker than what the remainder of it would be. They have 5 days to get it taken care of. And under number 2, we do give them notice, and then they do have the chance to appeal, and it's really similar to our existing nuisance right now, that they have the chance to appeal. It would come back to the city council, I would propose. you look to the bottom of the page, number 4, abatement, remedies, and penalties. This is specifically allowing procedures for abating it. Okay, so it's not that you'd find them in violation necessarily. This also specifically allows us to go in and abate what the problem would be, get it taken care of and applied to their taxes if need be. But in the middle of page 39, it actually gives you those 4 options about how you can enforce this: place a judgment against the person, okay, levy a civil penalty, so that's based that fine, the fine, which would be consistent with what our municipal infraction is, and that's $750 for the first go around and $1,000 for the repeat offense, and a repeat offense then occurs every day. Okay, but then you could also just order abatement of the violation and then assessing the cost to the premises. Okay, number 5 talks about abatement in case of an emergency, that if it truly is an emergency, we can just get that abatement taken care of through, without having to give the same type of proper public notice. So what do you think about a property maintenance code? Do we want to go down this road?
Well, we already got one, right?
We do not have a property maintenance code. This would be something new.
We have
Well,
nuisance.
what we have is nuisances.
This is definitely more definitive. Gives you a lot more power.
But what we got right now is working, really, isn't it?
Oh, by and large. The one thing that becomes problematic deals with buildings. And we have a nuisance ordinance. We do have a dangerous buildings ordinance. And through the combination of those two, we've had some success as far as getting rid of some of the nuisance buildings.
Let me ask you this, if we passed this, would we have been able to take away the Black Hawk Hotel and fix that problem without having to give that guy a bazillion dollars? We'd have fixed that problem, probably not.
I guess my answer would be we could have probably fixed the problem under the existing stuff that we have right now. It's just
This wouldn't help us.
it just provides more definition, and I think that's can be a really good thing. When somebody
I'm not
says
opposed to it.
that I don't,
For a benefit.
if the property owner comes in and says, yeah, I got a couple holes in my roof, it's my problem, why do you care? And then we can at least say, no, we do require that you keep a waterproof house and ceiling, roofing's part of it.
I mean, usually we've been arguing that somehow this nuisance has been a safety issue. And sometimes there is no safety issue.
And in this way, we could just say, it doesn't matter if it's a safety issue, we're just saying this is what the rule. Then I guess it gives us a little more leverage on it.
But might
It
help us
seemed
on
like
that
a
house
next
down there
step.
by Orchard's, right?
Yeah. And again, we've got the stuff in place, we can take care of that one. If we need to go in and cut all of the volunteer trees out of there, it's just a question of just having the political support to get it done under the existing ordinances, and I don't see any problem with that. But
It's just like any ordinance we have, it's just a matter of how hard we enforce it, if we do or do not.
well, that's
We choose
it's
to.
part of it, yeah.
Any council down the road could choose to push it or leave it be. At least it was there on the books, you could use it.
True. If this is something that you wanted to proceed with, I'd prepare an ordinance and bring it back next time. But is there anything else that is not included in there you think you might want to?
Is there an ordinance on how many cats you can have in the house?
I got that phone call today from somebody up in Nemaha. We do, and it is, the number of animals so that it does not constitute a sanitary concern either for the animals or the occupant, as determined by the police chief.
One or more.
That really narrowed it down, didn't it?
Yeah, it's clear.
Because we couldn't put a number to it, you know. We struggled with this issue after we had to tear that house down up on the hill.
But nobody knew how many she had, did they?
Didn't want to put a number to it, so if it becomes a sanitary concern, the chief can order that some of the animals be removed.
I don't know how that lasted that long.
I do. The council didn't want to do nothing.
I never even knew about it.
Man,
Well, Jim Frisbee said he had talked to councils for years and they wouldn't do nothing. Well, you could smell it.
You can smell
I
it
don't
15,
live there.
15, 20 feet from the front
You
door.
could smell it out in the street.
Yeah.
Why it was never done.
The basement has 4 inches of PVC in it.
Yeah.
I just, I'd like to see us clear, have something that we could have a little teeth or
We can whittle on that.
Yep.
No.
Down to the city.
No, one other thing on that. This occupancy thing, I didn't do anything more on this, on page 40. About, you know, would we like to have some limitations on the number of people who live in a rental property? And, like I say, haven't done anything more with this. If we would like to pursue this, which I think there's some merit in pursuing it, but if we would want to do that, I would just suggest we get a committee together of some landlords and have those landlords discuss it. See what their
Otherwise, they
feelings
do
are.
it themselves, they limit or not themselves.
Mhm.
yeah, there's some landlords won't multi-family.
Some of them, they rent by the amount, so much a person in Denison.
What do you do, Jim?
We hope to avoid some of that.
We don't have no policy. We have a no cats policy, but they all got cats.
How's that working?
It's working really good. It works just like most of our ordinances.
If you had an
No,
apartment with 3
Scott,
families in it, would
I
you
was
allow it?
thinking
No.
when I went there,
Well,
we got
no, I'm not sure.
great ordinances on.
I'm not sure I'd know until it's too late.
Right.
I don't know if you want to check with them.
So I think I would like to have something like this.
Only
Because once I've rented it to
room,
them-
and then the rooms can only be certain
think I'm
size, and
kinda-
if it's in the basement,
I'm
it
not
has to have an
sure.
egress window.
I
Well,
had
you
something
have
like
at
that-
least go with
Purposes.
A.
Yeah, these are really
He has
simple.
B, C, D, E,
Yeah.
F.
Uh,
I think it would benefit
But I think they got it
landlords.
pretty
Yeah,
well
I
cut and
think it
dried.
would
I don't
too.
think it could be in a,
I mean, I don't
And
know,
it'd be a safety issue.
these numbers, I don't know if that's the right numbers or
Our,
anything like that. I think maybe it's right, put together some kind of committee.
Yeah, I think that's,
I do too, but it'd be a safety issue if nothing else.
But I wouldn't mind seeing some numbers.
We can invite the landlords to come to the meeting if this is what we're proposing, what do you think?
It's a good idea.
I think that it would be good to involve them in this.
Yeah.
get some input and then we could draw off that.
And rental housing is a big thing now. Lots of people are buying rental homes.
You know, as you look at this thing from Erling, they have an entire chapter of their code devoted to a rental housing policy. And we don't have anything like that. And if we wanted to do something about the number of occupants, we would just kind of enforce this as a zoning regulation under just certain provisions of the zoning code. So, because we don't have a rental code, you know, and I don't know whether we need to be looking for it, you know.
Well, I don't even need to call it a rental code. If we're gonna have a code, we should have a code, because what's to stop a group of 100 people from buying a house and they all pitch a tent in there?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, why is it restricted to just rentals?
Okay, I was just trying to think about how we can get this thing codified and implemented. And we could do that through some rentals, but I'll work with Aaron on that. We can make it apply to anybody.
So you need to figure out how that can be.
Because it seems that the same issues that you guys are discussing would apply to homes that are homes as well. I mean,
Because a couple could come in and buy the house and then just put it in
Mhm.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a rental home.
Right.
You know.
So we're charging.
Rent.
Yeah.
But how would you know that?
Well, you
We
would-
wouldn't know.
usually- Correct.
Well, they're like all family too, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I'm considering having your in-laws come over.
I
A
know.
million years.
Oh, you're just on
Yeah.
camera,
Ah, yeah, whatever.
Would you pick that little out of it?
Yeah. They didn't quite get that zoomed in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll still get a committee together and kind of focus on landlords. That's where it would most often come into play. But kind of write something up that would apply to all residences then. Be interesting to see how that can apply, because if we're looking at square footage or something like that, that's, if you're at a 1,500 square foot house, it is 150 for each person, that's still 10 people in the house, you know, and we need to figure out how to.
How did they come upon that? I mean, it's interesting, the way that they calculated that. Is that kind of standard?
I sure don't know.
That's how you lay down on the floor.
Think how many toilets do you have? That'd be how you-
That's like Ames, I think they only have like 3 people in a house like.
Really?
Yeah, they get so many bedrooms in a bedroom, they really are constricted on what can be a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting, maybe to
I
have
don't know,
a
maybe
few
just take a look, because I remember when I lived
more
there, it
examples
was
for
really
landlords to
difficult.
look at, to come calculate.
But they had renter issues with a lot of slums, you know,
Sure.
trying to pack 1 million college kids in a house, so,
Mhm.
The fire issue too.
yeah.
Never get them out.
I know you can't cook a pig in the ground.
Hey, you knew that one for a fact.
I know that one for a fact.
Okay, the city clerk report.
I have a few things. You look on page 42. This came up in regards to that alley property behind High Street. And we discussed this at the last council meeting. Some of the property owners there had shown interest in acquiring that alley property in back. It's an undeveloped alley. And we talked about this last time. I said the city has some electric that's running through there, and basically that it didn't go any further as far as whether we look to abandon that alley. And then Jerry came in, he'd been down and was talking to some of those property owners down there, and he said, well, that's strange. Why would we have this electric running through that alley? He says those transformers are right in our backyards, right out our back doors. So this is a screwy setup, but that is what it looks like, where the primary runs right down through their backyards and the secondary still runs down through that alley. So, I don't know what you want to do about it. The same question is out there, would the city be interested in abandoning that alley to the neighbors? The neighbors would still like that. I'm not sure that I see the public good of doing that.
Why do they want it? I guess I don't know.
Extra property.
But
They're
Bill
ma-
doesn't
they're
want
maintaining it now, they have for
They do.
years, and, but I'm not sure they're all in favor of, what he says, it's gotta be continuous, I mean,
Sure.
you can't house get rejected, who gets it, who don't.
You know, the other thing is that when you go in from the north and you go to the third green line down, there's a garage right there.
Mm.
So we would consider abandoning nothing from there to the north. That's an access to that garage. So really, there's only about 3 properties
Mm.
until it gets down to that east-west alley there, which is between Carroll's and Hockham's.
And we just have a hornet's nest if we sold that, and they
Yeah.
fight over the wire, God, we'd have a mess. I would
And
think.
if some guy wanted to build a garage back there and he couldn't get to it, if his house was too wide on the sides, I could just see.
Move it on.
All right. Just a little update on that Sac Beach infrastructure project. That the engineering's come together on the project. Everything's looking good. And we're getting into where we will start that special assessment process then. And the special assessment process takes 2 meetings before you can let bid. We're still looking at letting bid sometime around the first of the year. So what we would propose is that this issue will come to the city council at the next council meeting about setting a public hearing date on the resolution of necessity for the special assessment. So what would come to the next council meeting is just to set a public hearing date for something that would occur in November. But I just really want to give you a heads up that that's going to be happening, starting to happen now. Status with it, though, is basically still the same, where we have that development agreement in place with Boulders, but nothing with Roger Peterson. And Roger won't consent to doing this, so we need to work through the entire process in order to make it good and legal.
So what happens after this November 7th hearing?
Then we would have the council would have approved a resolution of necessity on the special assessment, so the special assessment is essentially in place by then.
At the November 7th
Yeah,
meeting?
it's not, I mean, it's not that you start to pay on it or anything, but you will know the amount of the special assessment at that November meeting.
So it's in essence approved?
Yes. Yep.
At that meeting?
Yep. On the Boulders end of things, within the development agreement, they agreed to file a petition and waiver, actually. So, and our attorney is preparing a petition and waiver for Boulders, which is you're consenting to this before. So that's coming along good. Next thing's coming along good too is our FEMA electric project that's starting to come together a little bit now too. There's a crew of folks here, how many, 3 or 4 folks, who are staking the electric lines. And that's how they go about preparing the spec on the electric lines. They actually go out and stake it, and everything is, they go out and drive a stake in at the location where the pole is going to be, and then based upon that staking, they prepare the specs. So they're here doing this, said it may take up to a month for them to stake these lines. Okay? We've talked with them a little bit about some of those other lines that were, they're in fairly rough shape yet, but weren't in bad enough condition to meet that FEMA criteria. And is there any benefit to trying to add some of those to the project, or at least taking a look to see what the cost would be? So Bill's working with this engineer about some specific areas that aren't FEMA related, but is there still a chance that we should consider them in the project? So just wanted to give you a little heads up on this too, that you may see some additional numbers come your way. See what the cost of doing X number more lines would be. And because the engineer is saying that the cost of bids right now, any of the bids come in are just dramatically low. And he's looking at the amount of what our initial FEMA award was, and he had mentioned even something about a lot of bids basically coming in about half what we had estimated through DGR on the original FEMA. We wouldn't be able to use FEMA money for any of these additional lines, but I would like to really know where we're standing, as far as additional cost, and if it's to the city's advantage to try to get any more of the lines done. So anyway, those will just be some extra numbers you'll be seeing coming your way too.
Does Bill have a rough idea how much miles of it, or?
He does. I couldn't tell you what that was. He's really got that.
Good.
Because the more we looked at this, and you're saying, boy, there should have been a few more miles of line that should have somehow qualified for FEMA. And the DGR, when they did the inspection on it, they didn't really consider everything that possibly could be to make everything eligible when make any of the questionable one eligible. So anyway, just more information's coming your way on that too.
Is that our normal engineering firm?
DGR was our normal one,
and didn't do us any favors.
You know, we didn't get anything that was questionable to qualify, that's true.
That's sad.
I need you to take a look at this one. This is a sheet on your table tonight. We had talked about, you know, do we want to do any tree plantings back down around the stone pier? Where we took out all those big cottonwoods. So just today, our Trees Forever rep was here, and we got our park board together and went down and looked at the site and came up with some suggestions about what you would do for a tree plantings down there. Okay? Now this, it's number coded to the bottom to tell you what type of tree was proposed, but this does say that there would be 9 trees planted back in that area, and keeps all of the kind of the amphitheater setting, keeps that area open yet. So this plants everything kind of around the outside. Hard to get a kind of a grasp of what that is, but there are white flags down there, and I'd really like for everybody to go take a look at it and see what you think. See whether we want to be getting trees back in there or not.
And it just seems like an odd configuration. I mean, I'm sure there's some rationale. Is it just
Part of the
size
rationale
of-
is keep this area open, and then
But I just like, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it just seems odd, but I know nothing about it, so, you know, I'm
Okay,
assuming that there's size considerations, I don't know how big these trees are, will be in maturity, and,
and they talked about a lot of things, about how big the trees are, what the spread on them is, how dense the leafing is, because you get the coffee trees and the honey locust are really light, airy trees, so those were planted in areas where if you needed to see through them, you can actually kind of see through the trees. It's not as dense of leaf growth. So
would these be new varieties to our community, or some?
I don't think we have a single coffee tree in town, so that one would be new. The other ones are, we wanted to get to different species and be able to have a wider variety of species in town. For just in general, as far as being a good policy about disease resistance and stuff.
Are these native trees? Of
Yes.
some sort?
When you say honey locust, you mean like the kind that grow in fence rows, they got the little thorns on them?
It is for sure thornless, fruitless honey locust.
Okay. I was gonna say, if that's the kind I'm thinking, I don't know.
You got to get the certain cultivar, but
Okay.
uh,
Because the ones that grow wild, I don't know if you want those.
anyway, I'm real interested in your opinions about what we think we ought to do down
What, 6, 3, and 2, are they too close to the road? For future parking, or?
there. No, yeah, they're much further distance off the road than they are between a normal street and sidewalk. Again, you can't really tell too much by kind of looking at the way that I have it presented. I'd like for you to stop down and take a look at the flags and see what you think. I would say, if possible, we'd like to plant trees here this fall.
And you got grant money for this?
We got $1,000 worth of grant money. We spent $400 on some other trees already.
So what would be the total cost?
We can get small containerized trees for about $50 a piece. We want to get some that are a little bit bigger also, you know, to kind of start them on the way. They may run up to 100.
Is there anybody around that would want to donate one?
Dean Stock.
We get questions about that a lot, you know, about memorial trees and whatnot.
I thought Dean said he would spade some in for us, didn't he?
Dean spaded that one in the park, and that's a nice looking tree. And he mentioned doing that again.
I mean, if it's a little bit bigger tree and it's hardier already, I mean, get it in this fall yet if we can.
And we certainly can take a look at it. Because I wanted to do that. I thought, let's get some big trees and get them spaded in there. And basically they were saying you're not going to buy yourself that much other than you plant a bigger tree right now, because it won't grow any faster. You cut the roots off when you spade it, and then it takes a couple of years for the roots to start to regenerate, and so it doesn't necessarily grow faster than a tree, containerized or a balled and burlap tree.
This is from the state people?
Yep, from our Trees Forever folks too.
Makes you feel better.
Oh, I'm confident now.
The one fast tree is we just scatter mulberries everywhere.
Running through the ducts.
I tell you, I was not entirely against this option, but it didn't make the cut. A suggested type of tree to plant down there in that area again, it was a cottonwood, a cottonless cottonwood.
I'd have run him right out the door. Good God, a cottonwood.
Sure.
In Iowa?
Why not? That's what all those big ones are down there.
They keep falling down.
That's what trees do, they get big and fall down.
And he's a state employee, tree guy?
Well, this was our Trees Forever gal. But, okay, anyway, if you take a look at that, I would appreciate a little feedback on that one. The other thing that was there on your data, this is just an FYI for you, on where we are on the Sauk Trail visioning. So, the designs are done, and we're getting to the point now where the committee was starting to prioritize what they would like to do. So last time we got our committee together, they basically broke up into a Breda group and a Lakeview group. These couple things here are what the Lakeview group had decided they'd like to have as their couple of top priorities. The first one is just simply doing this bike lane work, painting bike lanes in. And this is like in front of Red Oryx down there and Bob Nansteel, that area. This would propose bike lanes on both sides of the street. And really, I just tell you this just for your information right now and kind of think about that a little bit. Because it would seem to be very easy to do, but if you're going to do that, you're also restricting parking there. So you need to think about the pros and cons about restricting parking. The other thing that the Lakeview Committee really wanted to focus on is the next page. They would like to do this, what they call the DNR North Marsh Site. And this is an overlook area that would end up looking something really similar to a stone pier, where it would basically be a wildlife watching station. And so people are able to park close to the road and get off and go over to this overlook, be able to watch a lot of the wildlife out there. There'd be some informational stuff about the marsh itself and how the marsh is supposed to operate and water quality and those types of issues there. So this was the first big project that the Lakeview group identified that they would like to do. So knowing that, we know that we really need a lot of assistance in order to get to the stage where we can even apply for some grants. You look at that thing and you could, to me, it's, you see a very expensive project there. We would need to have some successful grant funding in order to get it done. And in order to get to the stage where we can do some grant funding, we really need some technical assistance up front. So that's what that back page is. It talked with our folks from Snyder. Are you willing to help us out and get us some design and cost estimates on it? And he said, yeah, we'd help you out on that. We would donate our time to do that preliminary design. He said, I sure would like for you to have the property surveyed beforehand so that we could only do this once, and know that you're basing all of your work off of a proper survey. And he did ask that we would pay for the survey, so it's $1,200. I'm just telling you this as an FYI right now. I'm not asking anybody for anything. But because this is really a citizens group that's kind of driving, this is not a community project. It's a community project, not a city project. And we'll see how we do as far as any luck on fundraising. But we talked about this at the Sac County League meeting and left the meeting with my first $100 donation there already. So it was I think we can have some luck in the private fundraising side too, so.
What about DNR cooperation?
They're absolutely on board with this one, they very much want that to happen.
But they're broke, right?
They want it to happen, just not with their pocketbook.
I didn't want to be confused right up front.
I think if we look, just historically at the communities that have really embraced their trails, I mean, there has been a lot, I would assume, a lot of municipal support in those communities. I mean, just even in our area, much less the trails around the state. And I think, again, if one of our objectives is to really promote and encourage biking and use of the recreational trail, I think as a city council and as a city, we need to be behind those efforts, whatever that may mean, obviously with some fiduciary responsibility, but at the same time, there's a lot of ways that we can show our support by, assisting with fundraising, or, the things that we've done in the past for other efforts that have wanted or needed money. We've helped with fundraising, we've done mailings, or, we've stuffed utility bills or things, like that. I mean, I think there's lots of ways that we can assist, and maybe we do a match thing too that has been kind of successful to drive private fundraising efforts too, if we can give some incentive and say we can match to a certain amount, or whatever, because the more people, when we bring to town to ride these trails, the better it is for everybody. And you wouldn't believe the amount of time that I sit out at Boulders meeting with Cora or other people, and people call and say, hey, we're coming in from Des Moines, or hey, we're coming in from Omaha to ride the trail. We're going to stay over, we're going to leave our car in Carroll, and we're going to stay in Carroll one night, then ride up and stay there, and is the restaurant open every day? I mean, they're just, it generated just an extreme amount of interest, and I think, as a community, we really need to get behind whether and how we're going to support that, especially, in the working efforts too. I know that's come up a lot in our discussions, and will continue to come up, and how we really embrace biking as part of our cultural amenities.
So is there no parking wherever the bike trail, the line is?
See, we don't have bike lanes right now. So,
Right, but will you make that, I mean, is that what you were telling the council?
yeah, that would be customary, is that if you're gonna have a bike lane, there'd be no parking.
Pretty hard to ride a bike.
But it would only stretch a couple blocks, right?
It's about a block and a half,
On both sides of the street.
Mhm.
both sides. Well, yeah, I mean, that's open to discussion too, if you'd rather have
I don't think
a
that's
bike
necessary
lane
personally, but
on the one side, but. And the other argument is, boy, we've made it this many years without one, and it's more of a visual cue about where the bike lane goes when you're jogging that around on
it is
that
awkward.
block
It's
street.
very awkward, and if we can't rectify that, then I'd say it's a minor sacrifice to put a bike lane on one side.
Probably the side that doesn't let us go in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Just a thought.
That's a big thought.
All right, this is another new one too, that deals with putting dust control on some of our streets, and one of your complaints about is dust control out on Sunset Drive. And Bruce Stevens really and every time that we would lay that down, he'd call in, kind of complain about the sticky shit on the roads, and just made it known that he didn't care for it, but it was never really a problem until he said, boy, this, and he was just adamant that this dealt with that dust control and the sticky stuff and it caused some rock to get lodged in his steering system somehow. It cost a couple $100, and he had to get this thing taken care of. And he was fairly angry about that. But then I got an email from him a couple days later, because he called me and is really angry about this. He said, yeah, he didn't want it, but I said a lot of people do. We always hear from folks out there who want this done. And then he emailed me back. He says, yep, he talked with the neighbors out there, and that the consensus was that they do want some sort of dust control. Just wanted us to take a look at some different options, like calcium chloride spray or some dryer, and they even said looking at putting bentonite on there. So I don't know if there's some different options we can look at, Jack. But the other thing that he was talking about and asking about is there any chance that the city would explore putting some sort of a surface on the road?
If we tax the adjacent owners, I suppose.
My kids would love it. No skateboarding.
There's a lot of issues out there. With the road itself, with the location of the road, I about guarantee it's not in the right of way where it's supposed to be. You know, there's some issues.
Just let the sleeping dog lie.
So it's just never been paved because it's just.
It had been private. It's a
Oh, it had
private
been-
road.
Oh, it is still private?
Not after that annexation.
Oh.
It became public. The city has easement to that alley in there, and then it's our maintenance responsibility now too.
I guess it'd be just like down there off, what is that, alley by Lake Street there. I mean, you have to check with every landowner and find out where it lays and where we would explore doing anything, because if you're doing it on their land, I'm sure somebody's gonna complain about something.
At least one person will know.
I'm not saying that we need to do anything right now, but I do want you to know about this, that this concern is out there. And if we do dust control again, we can look for,
I would be careful of the calcium chloride one. I think that's the one that causes vehicles to rust.
Yeah. How does bentonite work?
that's the first time I've ever heard about
Remember
even
that.
bentonite.
Without
Oh, it is.
Magnesium
mining
chloride.
roads where they use bentonite, like when it gets wet, it just turns to grease.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, so
All right.
I'd like to see how that pans out.
I think it comes like from Reindeer, Montana, don't it?
Yeah, it's weathered volcanic ash.
There's a bentonite mine out there.
A lot of it. Kitty litter. That's what it is.
Sure good we got a rock guy that knows what he's talking about.
We do. My last thing is that I do still plan to go to the League of Cities Conference this week. It's Wednesday through Friday in Des Moines. And Sac County League is next month on Thursday, October 13th, and it's up at Shaler. And we need to tell them by the end of the month if we're coming and whether you want a steak or a Windsor chop.
That's a long ways away. to be
More than
talking
2
about
weeks
that.
in advance about whether you want to come to the meeting or
Send us an email.
Yeah.
not. Will do.
Just put me down as no, because I'm sure I'll probably be out of town. I don't want us to pay for a meal that I'm not going to get to eat.
And they always stress that. They say, if you say you're coming and you don't come, you gotta pay anyway.
Not unless we write the check different. Anything else?
That's it.
Motion to adjourn,
I'll make it.
second?
I'll
Second, adjourn.
Done.